All right, welcome. I'm Ricardo Conte, and this is Life on the James. Right now, you've already finished reading the background information on this lab, and you've already looked at your procedures for this lab as well. So let's look at what we have to work with to get this activity ready for your students. At the bottom of the procedures map, you will see a map of Aquaville. And it's got 7 different locations. It's got a sewage treatment plant, it's got a school, and a chicken factory as well along the James River. So what the students are going to be doing in this activity are exploring the water quality of the macroinvertebrates within the James River. Included with your materials, you're going to get a packet, cardstock packet, that has several different macroinvertebrates for each of the specific sites. And when they come together like this, they're all grouped up, nothing is labeled, there are no names. My suggestion, get all of those cut out and into labeled different envelopes so that for each site they are grouped together. This will give you the 7 different stations that you'll need for the students to explore. So for example, when they get to one of the stations, they pick out one of the invertebrates, and then they'll be able to lay it against their identification chart and see that this one is the mayfly larva. So they'll have the ones that are sensitive to pollution, somewhat sensitive, and the ones that are completely tolerant of pollution. Now looking in the actual lab, if you get a station set up, for example, if the students get to site 4. Site 4, I've already opened up the envelope. I've already gone ahead and I've grouped all like organisms together for the students. So the first thing that they would do is identify that they have an aquatic worm. So once they find their aquatic worm, they've been able to identify the organism. They come over here and they see they have 4 of them. So under the tolerance section, aquatic worm, then make a notation for 4. Next we have the lunged snail. The lunged snail is over here. We have 3 of them within our sample set, and then we would jot down 3 under lunged snail. Now the amount of organisms is not going to matter in the tally as much as the different types of organisms. So even though we are tallying up how many of each, at the bottom it's the number of boxes checked that will give you the index value, not the amount of organisms that you are actually finding in there, the different types of organisms. So once you're done identifying the other organisms within this sample site, what you will be able to then do is see that we had 2 different organisms that were somewhat sensitive. You had 5 different organisms that were tolerant, giving you a sum of all 3 to be 7. Therefore, the water quality at site 4 is poor. Alright, each station, the students will do that. They will group the organisms, they will identify them, they will tally them together, and then they will judge the water quality. After the students have been to each of the 7 sites and they've gathered their data, they have their total index value, they have their number and of the water quality for each of the different sites. Now this over here will be able to eliminate just you having to sort through 7 different pages of all the different sites. It'll group all the information in one place before answering your conclusion questions on the front and the back. Now with this, I also like to encourage the students to be able to make the arguments about the source of pollution to the James River, whether it was the sewage treatment plant, the school, or the chicken factory. Now, arguments could be made for each of those different locations for being the source of pollution. As long as the students can use the evidence collected from each of the sites to support their argument, it is a valid argument that can be supported. As far as the Marzano elements that can be used for year 1 in this lesson, first of all, chunking the content, breaking it down into these 7 different stations for the students to be able to explore. It will make it easier for them to process the information. Element number 7, how they record and represent this information for the various charts. Over here is element number 8. Organizing the students to interact, breaking them down into 7 different groups to have them hop around. That's element 22. You'll be able to notice if they're not engaged to see if there's somebody just sitting there trying to update their charts. So that's element 23 as far as engagement, using that physical movement, causing them to move around the room to interact with their peers. It will maintain that lively pace of the what if, and for them trying to figure out what's going on within the James River. My favorite, demonstrating the intensity and enthusiasm throughout the lesson for the students to try to figure out what's going on. And then lastly, element 42, asking in-depth questions of the reluctant learners, especially when you get to those conclusion questions and they're finally putting the pieces together to be able to share their own opinion on what's happening on the James.